Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the moist meter. How wet are you? About to be a lot wetter, that's for damn sure. Just saw the new Planet of the Apes movie, so let's scientifically analyze the moisture content of this movie, plus or minus 0.5% uncertainty, of course. This is the third entry into the rebooted Planet of the Apes franchise. It follows the same pattern of the previous two by having a name that makes it difficult to figure out what order they go in. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War of the Planet of the Apes, fucking Dawn of the War to stop the rise of the Planet of the Apes. Unless you look this shit up, you're not going to be able to tell just from the name what order this movie fell in. It's not really a complaint or anything. I like when movies aren't just number 2 and number 3. I like when they have a different title to them. But for Planet of the Apes, it could have made it a little easier to figure out which one was first, because Dawn and Rise could have both been the first movie. Since it'd been 3 years since the last one came out, I actually did think Dawn was the first and Rise was the second. I got the titles totally mixed up. I know, that's a crazy story, right? That's some pretty insane shit. Things get pretty wild over here, let me tell you what. Those names really threw me for one hell of a loop. But I'm just going to go ahead and give my biggest complaint about this movie right away, right off the bat. It's the main setting for this, the facility where most of this movie takes place, the little military base where it all goes down, is the most poorly guarded facility on the fucking planet. This base was supposed to be the damn Area 51 of this universe, this incredible government secret that's locked down, no one knows about it, you know, the fucking Fort Knox of fuckery, and yet fucking Walmart has better security than this base had. In one scene, a little girl, the little girl from the trailers, because I'm not going to spoil anything here, she just walks onto the base and starts feeding the apes for about 10 minutes of screen time and no one ever notices her. In another scene, one of the apes walks onto the base to try and attract some attention, but no one notices the ape. He could have walked all the way to the mess hall and ordered a fucking Miller Lite, but if he didn't want piss in a can, he could have ordered anything besides Miller Lite. And the lack of security wasn't for lack of personnel. They had about 200, 300 soldiers on this base at all times. I don't understand how none of them can see people entering through the fucking front doors. They just walked right through the front entrance to this bitch. It was basically just like an open house for a newly on the market townhome. It's just ridiculous how poor the security was there. A piggy bank would have been more difficult to get into. Now, that's my biggest complaint about this movie, is you have to suspend your disbelief that this facility is just, you know, come help yourself, an all-you-can-eat buffet of fucking intruding and burglaring. But other than that, I think it's a very solid film. It is a great story to tell. If you've watched the previous two movies, you've definitely got to watch this one. If you haven't seen the other two movies, I don't think you necessarily need to see them. This has kind of its own self-contained storyline, and everything's kind of spoon-fed to you with what's going on, which is good because it brings a lot of people into it, and it does a good job of doing that. I also like how they didn't make the bad guys just these dehumanized, cartoonishly bad supervillains. They had a lot of motivation behind what they're doing, and you've kind of felt for those characters as well as feeling for the main characters, which are the apes and Caesar. Everything in this movie looked really good, especially the action scenes. I also really like the soundtrack. That stood out to me for once. Usually movie soundtracks don't really tickle my nutsack too hard, but this one really gave it a firm tickling. Thought it was great, fit the mood, and fit every scene beautifully. I will say though, I think they went a bit overboard with just the stopping and staring at each other scenes in slow motion. There was a whole lot of those in this movie. Just a whole lot of just looking into each other's eyes like you're trying to look into a fucking crystal ball for like 30 uninterrupted seconds. Just went on too long. There were too many of them. But I do think they added a lot to it. I just wish there wasn't so many and they didn't go on so long. And I also wish the military base wasn't set up like a 007 GoldenEye level where there's a bunch of explosive barrels everywhere. The point is, they know they're about to be attacked, yet for some reason they've left all of these oil tankers and explosives right out in the open to just have themselves blown up. That didn't make any sense to me. But if you can suspend your disbelief for the stupidest military base in existence, then this is a very nice conclusion to the trilogy and just a good standalone movie in and of itself. So let's pop this shit into the moist meeting toaster, and we're locked at about a 70% on the moist meter. I thought this was a good movie. I thought it was a good conclusion to the trilogy. I don't think it was as strong as the previous two movies, but I do think people coming into this without seeing the other two are going to like it, and I think it is a nice conclusion for people who have seen the other two, but will probably be let down just a little bit with this one, because there's definitely some strong shortcomings, but overall I do believe it is a very solid film and worth seeing. That's it. See ya.